All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Matt Jacobs. I'm director of the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. Thanks all of you for coming today. I'm going to just make a couple of quick remarks about the center and how Civic Scholars fits into what we do here at the center. And then I'll be turning it over to the folks who actually run Civic Scholars. I will really quickly say that not only with Civic Scholars do you get free pizza for the information session, it's also the only class you're likely to ever take that you would actually get paid for. Because we actually provide a $500 stipend to everyone who's in the class too. So I just stole their thunder, but they'll get the opportunity to say more about it. So Civic Scholars is one of our undergraduate research opportunities. It's really meant to be an introductory research opportunity for folks who haven't had that kind of experience. It's also meant to equate you with principles of civic engagement, public service, and public leadership, very broadly defined. Again, I'll leave it to the folks who'll be running it to describe it, but it fits in with our broader principles of civic engagement, public service, and public leadership. Those are the things that drive the Bob Graham Center for Public Service, whether you want to engage locally, statewide, nationally, or internationally. We do a lot of different things in the center. We're located right upstairs, right there. We have academic programs. So we run the International Studies major and the Public Leadership minor for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. We have undergraduate research opportunities, of which Civic Scholars is one. We also have two others for more advanced students. We have professional development opportunities, internship programs. So we run the Gainesville Fellowship. We run the Tallahassee internship program every spring. We collaborate with the UF's Office of Government Relations to run a Washington, D.C. internship program as well, all of which have stipends and other financial support, and you can get academic credit for them as well. We are the primary facilitator on campus for Get Out the Vote at UF's Get Out the Vote initiatives, census work, all that kind of stuff as well. We work with several different student groups. So I think we have 6 different student groups that we support, doing a range of different things. The point is that if you are interested in civic engagement, public service, public leadership, no matter what your background, no matter where you think you might want to engage in those ways, you can find an intellectual home here in the center if you're inclined to pursue those interests, okay? We want this to be a place that we can't fit all 40,000 UF undergraduates in it, but if any one of those 40,000 undergraduates wants to pursue those things, we want you to feel like you have a space here to do that. And we want you to feel like you have a space here to do it through a variety of means. Again, academics, research, professional development, student engagement, all of those things we can offer here. Today, you're going to learn about the Civic Scholars program. Let me just give you a little bit of background on that. Then I'll turn it over to Mike and Dr. McCarthy to give you more information on it. Civic Scholars has been going on here through the center for 7 or 8 years. It originally started as an idea to get 67 students, one for every county in the state of Florida, doing research on a common topic across the state. So to collect data statewide on a given topic. So previously we've done topics on climate change, affordable housing, a range of things like that. Over the last couple of years, it's shifted a little bit, partly because of the organization that funds it has asked us to do some things a little bit differently with it, to highlight technology and civic engagement a little bit more. Partly also because of the pandemic, it's forced us to reimagine how we do it. So now it's not focused quite so much on getting a student for every county. It is still interested in statewide research and now how we visualize that and use technology to help people think through how they might engage civically. But it's more approachable from a variety of different perspectives. And so, again, I don't want to steal Mike and Dr. McCarthy's thunder. I'll let them explain that. But it is something that has shifted over time in terms of its approach, but it is a long-standing program here at the center. The people who will be running Civic Scholars this year, as they did last year, are Mike Waylen, who's actually a graduate student in geography. We support him here through the center, and he does our data viz piece, but he also is kind of the graduate coordinator for the program. And then Dr. Angela McCarthy, she's in the back. She's a lecturer in political science and affiliate faculty here in the center. And she's going to be the instructor teaching the course directly. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike to take over here in terms of running the presentation, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions and engage with them directly. So Mike.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jacobs. Let's get this a little set up here. All right, so before I begin, thank you all so much for coming out, enjoying some free pizza, and to our folks online. As Dr. Jacobs had just explained, oh no, having technical issues already. Well, he already introduced myself and Dr. McCarthy, and I'm a graduate student in geography. Before I came to the Graham Center, I was teaching classes, social geography, geography of Latin America. So I have a lot of experience working with undergraduate students. Right? Obviously, Dr. McCarthy does as well. Some of you might know her from poli-sci. All right, she teaches a methods class as well as numerous other classes as well in political science. But really, this is the cool thing about UF that you don't get at every institution. Okay, you have people who believe in interdisciplinarity, right? People who are maybe from a certain background but feel compelled to do research about public service, do research about intersections between things like race and poverty, do intersections between voting and the environment. All right, there's all kinds of worlds that we bring together here at the Graham Center. So before I begin about talking about more specifically about Civic Scholars, I just want to give you a little overview. All right, we'll talk specifically about what Civic Scholars is, although Dr. Jacobs went over a lot of that. What are the benefits that you'll receive from being a Civic Scholar? And then we'll go over sort of what Civic Scholars in the past have studied, right? What this iteration of the program in the spring will be about. All right. And so basically the idea is that this would be an introduction to research. And there are a lot of students who begin the program saying, oh, you mean like reading a lot of papers? And to a certain extent, that is research. I'm not going to take away from that. But we really want you to start thinking about real methods, all right? But how to ask answerable questions. And then more importantly, how you would answer those questions. So in terms of Civic Scholars, we are pushing to not just get you to think about this quantitatively, but also qualitatively as well, all right? So part of it will be about designing a survey, designing survey questions. And the other part of it will be about doing things like interviews, doing things like focus groups, doing those more qualitative, all right, methods to research topics related to civic engagement, public opinion, and public service here at the University of Florida, right? And the idea behind this, all right, very much relates to what Dr. Jacobs was saying before, right? We all wanted to say like, oh, let's go out and we'll get representatives from each county, right? To get answers to questions. Well, Dr. McCarthy and I were thinking about this last year, and it appeared to us that what better sample for the future of Florida voters than right here at the University of Florida, right? We have 40,000 students from mostly Florida, but all across the United States and all across the world, right, that are actively going to be participating in the public sphere in the next 4 to 8 years, all right, and so on and so forth. And we thought, well, this was even better because now we can teach students, all right, how to create data, how to create proprietary data, all right, that we can study over time, all right. So basically, will be at the ground floor, all right, of a project which would last for years and years and years. Sorry. There you go. It's working now. All right. So what do you get besides all that wonderful, feelings of civic duty and civic pride and being a part of a research program? Well, you would also get a $500 stipend upon completion. All right. It's a 3-credit course for the first time because we wanted students to be able to engage with the material on a more regular basis. Right? In previous iterations, we only met, maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that. Now the course is going to be a little more intensive, so that way we can really get across, right, all kinds of materials and information. We can meet regularly, so the project can be even more tighter than it was in previous years. All right. As Dr. Jacobs had brought up, in previous iterations, we had studied a whole bunch of topics related to or relevant to Florida, including income and poverty, as well as a huge gestalt of other things. But what's really sort of new about the program this year is that it is going to be this 3-credit course. All right. and it's going to be taught by Dr. Angela McCarthy, as well as myself. And again, she's affiliate faculty with the Bob Graham Center, as well as over in political science. And the idea is that you'll meet in the afternoons, late evening. We have a course that we will register you for once you've been accepted into the program. So it is departmentally controlled. Right? So you'll put in an application, and then if you're selected to the program, you'll be enrolled in this course. All right. So as we mentioned before, everyone always wants to know, what's the topic going to be this year? And in previous iterations of the program, it has been, a very sort of topical issue. Last year, we did social determinants of health. The year before that was climate and society in Florida, right? But this year, we're hoping to put together a program for the future, which will be more about getting students to design surveys that they feel is most relevant. So part of that survey will be about a topical issue in Florida pertaining to the environment, maybe pertaining to COVID-19 pandemic response, basically surveying students, right, how they feel about topical issues, topical legislation, right? And then some other questions will be more about civic engagement broadly. What are some of the barriers to what would register you to vote, right? If you're already registered to vote, what stops you from voting, right, in the next election, right? Do you feel disenchanted with the current political climate, right? All these kinds of relevant questions that we want to get both quantitative and qualitative data back on, right? As well as key demographic information. And the idea is moving forward, we will have this sort of proprietary data set that we can share about Florida voters and students at the University of Florida. So if you're interested, all right, the key dates, I know some of you are probably looking at the flyer in front of you, but you will need to apply by November 1st. I think there's really only 4 questions on the application. So take your time with them. We look for more quality answers than necessarily long or short answers. All right. And the notifications for these programs will go out on November 8th. All right. So you'll know if you're in. All right. And then, of course, because it's like a regular class, you'll just start attending class on January 5th. But importantly, we wanted to try to give you enough time so to make sure that it fits into your schedule. We know that is going to be a challenge to a certain extent with moving forward with the course in this way. So if you are here in person, or I believe if you're online, you should be able to scan the QR code if you want to open the application. All right. You can also visit bobgrahamcenter.ufl.edu and to learn about a host of other internships that are offered through the Bob Graham Center, as well as other research opportunities such as the ASCU and Haskell Scholars. And there's a number of public programming events that happen right here in Pugh Hall, as well as around the campus that the Graham Center is associated with. So if you sign up for the newsletter, then you'll get information and updates, right, about all these key programs and events. Okay, and I will keep that QR code up. But if you have questions specifically about Civic Scholars, or you're nervous about scheduling, or you want to know more about what the idea for the class is, feel free to email me because I am the project coordinator. Dr. McCarthy is already burdened with enough questions from people in her class, but the questions generally go through me. People always ask me about my funny email. If you're a fan of Kurt Vonnegut, it's easy to remember because Kilgore Trout shows up in a number of his novels, but it's kilgoretrout89@ufl.edu, or you can come see me up in the Bob Graham Center. I'm usually here during normal daylight hours between 10 and 4 in the Bob Graham Center, Pugh Hall, right, Suite 220, right? And we wanted to open it up both online and in person. If anyone has any questions about the program, about how to apply. Oh, sure.
So of the programs that Dr. Jacobs discussed, the internship programs, something that we really look for is research experience. And so for students who engage in Civic Scholars, sort of as an introductory course early on in their undergraduate career, as juniors and seniors when they're applying to the Tallahassee internship program, the Washington, D.C. internship program, the Gainesville fellowship program, it's going to serve them well. And so I just wanted to put that there because it is a skill that we look for. And a lot of the internship placements specifically require some experience in policy research. And so this could really be a good stepping stone for something forward as to sort of the why to definitely get involved. Unfortunately, when I was an undergrad here, Civic Scholars wasn't a thing, so I couldn't take advantage of this opportunity. But I just wanted to say that for what it's worth. And thanks so much.
So there is one question online. Someone was asking how many students get accepted to the program. Historically, this number fluctuates from iteration of the program to iteration of the program. This year, because it's a class, the class size, I believe, is limited to about 45 students. So we are currently looking to keep that number around 45. Does anyone in the audience have a question? Just real quick, let me get you a microphone here with Dr. McCarthy, so that way folks at home can hear you.
So I was wondering, since the course credit is new to this program, whether it complements existing minor or certificate tracking, like for the public leadership minor, like if it complements any tracking in that way.
So a couple things regarding the course credit. First of all, it will meet the research methods requirement for poli-sci. Since Dr. McCarthy teaches in poli-sci as faculty there, it will be designed to meet that requirement. So if you're a poli-sci major, and you want to work towards an honors thesis or something like that, it's going to meet that requirement. More broadly, with something like the public leadership minor, it is not listed as meeting that, but it is something we would substitute in. Since it's a new course, it hasn't been added to the list for that yet, but that is certainly something that we would include and allow to count for that. We would just have to do it as an individual course substitution to make it count that way, okay?
Since the class is 45 students or around that, I was wondering how collaborative this class is, since we're going to be doing a lot of research studies, or if this is more of like a lecture class about policy.
Dr. McCarthy, would you like to answer this one?
So it is collaborative in that you will be working in groups or teams, if you will, of students to finish a project. You will have an individual project assignment, but you will also be collaborating with class members. The cool thing about, I think what makes Civic Scholars different from other research methods classes is that you will be conducting or have the potential to conduct both qualitative and quantitative data analysis. So in the quantitative data track, you will be conducting a survey. So it's collaborative in that you'll be working with class members to form this unique survey, to build this unique survey. And then we'll push that out to undergraduate students at UF. The qualitative track has to do more with focus groups and interviews. And so you'll be working with teams of people in the class to conduct those focus groups and interviews. It's lecture in that you still need to know the fundamentals of what research methods is. So the way that it's split right now, the Tuesday, Thursday class, we'll have a lecture on one of the days, and then like these labs on the other day.
I think you can just start. So I was wondering, you mentioned how are you going to decide?
Yeah, so you will work, and part of this collaboration, you'll work with other people in the class to determine what types of questions are going to be on the survey, or what types of questions will be put in the focus groups or the interviews. So it's really a ground up program, and that will start with, let's explore what the topic will be. But it's, with that being said, it's in the confines of civic engagement, contemporary issues in the state of Florida, and then like among students and opinions among students. So we have a little bit of freedom in what is a contemporary issue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. So like, what did you do? Yes. So I think, I don't know. I haven't looked at the syllabus. I have no idea. But my hunch is that maybe there'll be some overlap, but what this will give, that I don't know, right? Because I haven't seen the syllabus, but what I think that this will give is an opportunity to take that, to translate the research methods experience and put it on something like Barometer Florida or the website and have this technological component to the research that we're doing. So I don't know if you got that in your other class or not, but Mike can show the website. Can you even show the website with the story map?
Oh, I'm.
No,
we
cannot show yeah, so there is a technology component to this that I'm not sure if you had in your other class or not, but you will do that. And will also be you will be introduced to computer software programs like RStudio, LaTeX, and probably Stata. So these are all really good things if you want to like go on and do other research methods or write a thesis and something like that. So I don't know for sure, but if you send me the syllabus, I can tell you where it's different, like what things are different. Yeah.
Yeah, what I didn't necessarily cover in this was that the Graham Center also hosts something called Barometer Florida. And the story maps that students created last year are unfortunately not on the website just yet. But the idea is that there is a visualization component of it. Last year, I introduced students how to visualize geographic data and how to try to tell the story behind their data in a compelling way, which story maps is really great for. You can also exploring other avenues for this, such as Spark. But the idea is to create more engaging materials to share the research that we do here at the Graham Center. Because articles and PDFs are great, don't get me wrong, but it's, if we really want to try to reach a wider audience and we want to do that with engaging visual materials. And so that's the component that I work on, which is called Barometer Florida. Are there any other questions? Sorry.
So let me add in one other point on that. So I mentioned that this is funded by an outside agency, the Knight Foundation, which is really interested in the relationship between technology and civic engagement. And so we have a grant from them. And so they're providing the funding that supports the stipends, that supports Mike as a graduate student as well. And they don't have a particular requirement of what we do with it, but they want to see something that is using technology to promote access and to promote civic engagement broadly defined. So one of the things that we do is with the information we collect, we put it up as a way to tell interesting stories about what's going on in Florida. So if you play with the Barometer Florida one, that's going to show you information on 2 years ago, the program on climate change specifically, and give you some information about sort of the research that was done and so on at that point. That was before Mike was working with us, and that was actually designed at the time. Dorothy Zimmerman is our communications director. She worked very closely with an advanced undergrad at the time to build out that site as it was using, what's the software it's in? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Tableau.
Yeah, Tableau. And now we're switching to a different software and everything, but to have a more advanced version. But you can play around with that and you'll get a sense of what we're trying to do with this. And this is, we have a funder who's really interested in trying to use technology to promote civic engagement and to have that accessible to the citizens of the state of Florida. So that's kind of the background on the money side of it, if you will.
In addition to the new part of this being the course credit, do you expect that the time commitment and kind of the intensity of the research we go into might change from what like previous cohorts experienced? Because like I know some people that did this program, but I don't know if like getting their input on like what they did week to week might be different given that it's a 3 credit 3-hour credit course now.
Yeah, it's completely different. And you appreciate the feedback that they give you, but it is different. And it is a class. And that was kind of the point that we moved from this 1 hour every other week or every 3 weeks format so that you could get more experience, more in-depth research, enhance your study of what research methods is. So it's different. It should be treated and will be treated like any other class that you have that's a 3 credit hour class. So it is more labor intensive. Appreciate the feedback that they give you, but understand that now it's class. Yep.
Okay, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So my first question is, in terms of the Thursday lecture, how you're saying it would be more, I guess, hands-on collaborative. Could you give an example of like how that would take place, what we would be doing in terms of maybe creating surveys or how that would work? And one more question I have to follow up is, would we have some kind of like an expo at the end to show our projects?
Yeah, okay. So for the first question on what those Thursday sessions would look like, and by the way, it might be Tuesday, so don't hold me to this. I need to see how it pans out. But those collaborative sessions, you'll be working in groups. Hopefully we're 100% in person. I think that's the plan. And you'll be working with groups to think about concepts or things that we would include in this civic engagement survey. So for example, if you are interested in the quantitative track and survey design, you'll be working with people to help understand what is a survey, what's a good survey question, what's the difference between an open-ended and closed-ended survey question. Then we will workshop it in the class. So push out that survey to just the students in the class as like a test study of what the main survey will look like once we distribute it to all undergraduate students. So that's an example. Another example is when we're learning RStudio, we'll have labs on RStudio, or the computer software program R, statistical analysis program. We will use that. There are I think I have 4 or 5 series, like an iteration of problem sets that you can do, but you'll be collaborating with people in your group so that you can come up with this fancy display at the end of the semester. So that's just 2 examples. I'm happy to give you more, but I know we're, time. I can go on and on. So the second thing that you asked was about, is there a display for this at the end of the semester? Yes, we're working on coordinating that. My dream is that we have a conference so that you can present your research to not only other people in the class because they'll know what's going on, but everyone, possibly people at the Bob Graham Center or in other programs, and we can open it up for people who want to see what you've been doing all semester. So yes and yes.
Yeah, to add on to those, the GeoVisualization component through Esri is something that I work with. That'll certainly be a lab to expose students to that. Although you can GeoVisualize at least data in R as well. It is a little bit more intensive, but certainly the idea is to at least expose you to a lot of these different ways of communicating data and how to organize data at the very least. And part of, at least the idea behind the survey, is part of what you'll get and what we hope to get in the survey responses is some sort of tracker about where these students are from, and the idea is that we'll be able to visualize that component as well. And we can look for trends in the data that way. Now, some of the issues with research design is you go in with 100% certain intentions of what answers you're going to get back and what it looks like, and sometimes you find that was a bad question, that was a bad idea, so you're going to learn that part of the process as well, right? And so that's maybe something that you don't always get in every class, but certainly we want to make sure that we're exposing students to all the different technology that you get while you're at UF. And I mean, just on a personal note, I mean, I use mapping software a lot, and not only has it gotten me jobs such as this one here at the Graham Center, but what was I going to say on top of that? It's a license that you have with UF that is very expensive if you were to buy it as an individual practitioner. So you should really learn it and enjoy having free access to that as a student with an institutional license before having to move on to the field. So
And I've been giving quantitative analysis or the quantitative track example. So as a qualitative track example, you'll be responsible for organizing a questionnaire to then go interview students on campus. And we will coordinate focus groups. If you're interested in that, focus groups where then you test out what we will include on other surveys and then the big focus group, the big survey at the end. So that's the qualitative road. And then I wanted to say something else, and of course I forgot. Oh, can I say, oh, okay, before I forget, because I will forget. We will also have modules in the class on how to do things like present good research or present your research in a professional setting. So before we get to that end goal of a conference or whatever it is, we'll go through how to do it, what parts to include in your presentation, what things to leave out and how to make your research marketable, because that's kind of our goal with this, is to have good research that we can then distribute and get others to see what the research is and what we're doing. So, sorry.
I just wanted to add on, this is open to a student in any major too, by the way, right? So Mike was talking and Angela were talking about learning some R and that kind of stuff. That's great, but you don't have to be a stats person to do this, right? This is meant to be open to anyone in any major to teach you intro level research methods. Also, say you're in a STEM discipline, you might find, hey, I'm interested in looking at what are some challenges in the STEM fields in civic engagement, right? So you might be heavily engaged in writing those parts of a survey or looking at those types of issues. Or if you're more in the humanities, you might be much more interested in doing the qualitative side of this, right? So really think about it not as, oh, wait, this, I'm not necessarily interested in becoming an elected official. So what does this have to offer to me? It's about your communities. It's about your state. It's about the broader environment. And I don't just mean that in the climate sense. I mean that in the political, the social, the cultural sense of where you live, right? And so this is an opportunity to learn a valuable skill, research, in a way that's meaningful to you in your academic discipline, and connect that to issues that matter to you in your communities, however you may define them, okay? Other questions?
So my question is, just one last thing is, how would we be like graded in this class since it is a 3-credit class?
There's a grading rubric. No, you will be graded on your participation. So participation is a component. Your final presentation is a component. So whatever that presentation looks like, whether it's a presentation just in our class, among classmates, or at the Bob Grimm Center, there will be a final presentation. You'll also be responsible for 6 segments of a paper. So the larger paper is the research paper that you produce at the end that you will present, but broken up with that paper are 6 different sections. One includes research question, another includes like design paper, the design of your paper, data and methods section. Then you'll have, this is out of order, by the way, but you'll have a literature review section and then an analysis section and then a conclusion section. And throughout the semester, you'll turn in those segments. I'll provide extensive feedback, and then you'll redo it because essentially these 6 segments are drafts. You'll redo it for the end of the semester where you have your polished paper. So the main part is that, but the participation, we shouldn't discredit participation because you do have to work with groups and your classmates to develop these surveys and the survey questionnaires and the focus groups and stuff. So participation in that paper are the 2 big things.
And Dr. McCarthy, someone was asking, I think we talked about this to a certain extent, but the ability to select if you're on the more qualitative or quantitative track.
So you will learn both. And then around week 3, you'll decide, you'll naturally sort yourself into one of these groups with my guidance and help, but you will learn both qualitative and quantitative research methods. And so you'll be able to select what track you want to go down, but just because you're in the qualitative group, it doesn't mean that you have no idea what the quantitative group is doing. Everyone will know everything. We are one class. There's not 2 sections of the same class. It's just 2 groups in the same room.
Okay. Any other questions? I think that's it. Well, thank you all very much for coming out today and participating online. Really appreciate it. If you certainly will also tell your friends and talk about it, we greatly appreciate it from everyone here at the Graham Center. Thank you so much. And please finish off this pizza on your way out. Thanks.